What up, fools? I am starting a new series where I explain some of my positions and my beliefs and the reasons that I hold those positions or beliefs. And today, I am talking about being transgenderism, trans rights, whatever you want to call it. I was fairly far right on these issues for a long time. I hold maybe two left-leaning positions, and that's systemic racism and trans rights. And over time, the more that I've researched these things and the more that I've learned about them, the more that I've fallen left on these issues. So I want to explain why it is that I hold the position that a trans woman is a woman. First off, we got to start with the terminology. The reason that there's so much confusion is because the right seems to have a different word for woman or a different definition for woman. And so I will explain. The left separates sex and gender. When they're talking about sex, they're mainly talking about biology. You can be talking about chromosomes, you could be talking about just the appendages between their legs. But mainly when we're talking about sex, we're only talking about biological features. Whereas when it comes to gender, we are talking about characteristics that are normally considered either masculine or feminine. Now, there's a number of things that play into gender, like the way that you act, your performance, the way that you look, or even the way that you think or the way that you identify. But for the most part, the way that we interact with gender in society is by looking at somebody. If I walk up to somebody who has long hair, a dress, carries a purse, has high heels on, shaves their legs, wears makeup, I'm going to think of this person as a woman. And the opposite is true for what we consider masculine. These things are not inherent to your sex. These things are what just happen to align with sex. A male is not biologically predetermined to like sports or cars or to smash beer cans up against their head, just as a female is not biologically predetermined to like Barbies or wear dresses or any of the other things. So gender is considered to be socially constructed. A social construct, according to Merriam-Webster, is an idea that has been created and accepted by the people in a society. Normally, social constructs are categorizations. They exist only in our minds, but they relate to things that are in reality, real objective things. Whether or not somebody is black or white is a social construct. It is their genetics that makes them look that way, but it's still socially constructed. We only look at the person and decide whether or not they are black or white. And we can't draw a hard line on when somebody goes from black to white or what their skin should look like, how wide their nose should be, how much of an afro they should have, something like that. It's socially constructed. We just have an idea of what a black person is or a white person is, just as we have an idea of what a woman is or what a man is. Some people fall in the middle of this. Those people are considered non-binary. But for the most part, I would say there are two genders, there are two sexes. There are people who fall outside of the rule, but outside of them, normally we have two of each. And pronouns will align with gender, and appendages will align with sex. Now, you can say, I think of female when I hear the word woman, and I don't want to use their language. That's completely fine. As a right winger, I understand the power of language within society, and I think that it's common that the left tries to change the language that we use, because language is a very important tool and weapon that we use within the culture war. And I don't know that I want to concede all of those things to the left. But what matters is that I understand what it is that they're trying to say. If I choose to ignore what it is they mean when they say woman, I keep thinking like, okay, well, they're saying woman, but I want woman to mean female. So every time they say woman, I'm going to pretend they mean female. This is a straw man. This is bad faith. You are choosing to ignore what it is they're trying to relate to you. Just as somebody who speaks a different language, when they use different words to relate a specific message to you, you don't say no, no, no. It's not said like that. Blanco is not said like that. You're supposed to say white. No, you know what they mean. You translate it to figure out what they mean, and then you accept that information in good faith. Just as if somebody from the UK came over to you and said, hey, can you give me a fag? Well, normally, somebody from the UK is normally using that word to mean cigarette. Here in the US, this is a slur for gay people. So if they ask you to give them a fag, and you say, what? You want me to give you a gay person? And they say, no, I'm sorry. When I say fag, I mean cigarette. So, can you give me a fag? And you again respond with, I don't have a gay person to give you. How can I do this? How can I just hand you a gay person? They're like, no, again, I mean cigarette. When I say fag, this is what I'm saying. So again, can I have a fag? And you again respond with, I'm not going to give you a gay person. Well, this is a straw man. You are purposefully misinterpreting what it is that they're saying and responding to something they are not saying. All that matters is that you at least understand the terminology so that you understand what it is they mean. When they say a trans woman is a woman, or a man transitioned to a woman, they are not saying their penis fell off and they grew a vagina. That is not something that they are saying. That's not something that any of them believe. When they say a trans woman is a woman, they are only saying that they fit the social construct, that they are now presenting in feminine ways with feminine characteristics and feminine performances. When I say performance, I don't mean like in a play. Though that is somewhat part of it. When I say performance, I mean like they perform tasks that are considered feminine. Putting on makeup, or carrying a purse, walking a certain way, wearing certain clothes. These are all tasks that we would either consider feminine or masculine, and so they put on a performance of these tasks, aligning with one gender or the other. Normally, nobody ever checks inside somebody's pants to decide whether or not to call them a man or a woman. We look at certain characteristics and we decide whether or not they look feminine or masculine, and then we call them a man or a woman. But if you check all of the little boxes and say, well, here's how many things we would consider masculine or feminine, are you going to count them all up and see if they're over 50% to decide whether or not they fit enough criteria to be a man or a woman? Most of us just say, hey, look, whatever you want me to call you, I will call you that. Though I do think it's problematic for somebody who has a beard, who walks around looking like a big old lumberjack, to then say, hey, please call me she, her. This is confusing, and this adds more problems than is necessary. When it comes to sports and whether or not they play with a certain gender, lots of times they will be taking medication to get to the point to where they are actually handicapped compared to most women who have been practicing or working out in the same amount of time. Now, studies on these things are not definitive. It's not final. We don't know for sure. These things are debatable, and you can question a lot of these things, and it's perfectly fine as long as on an individual basis you are not refusing to acknowledge somebody's identity. On a moral level, within society, or even ethically, we think of what is good or bad, right or wrong, based on the way that people around us are affected by our actions. And if we know that trans people are more likely to be suicidal if their identity is not acknowledged, then on a moral or ethical basis, this would be the right thing to do. Acknowledging or validifying their identity would actually help them stay alive. I'm pro-life, and I make a big deal about how valuable life is. Even right after conception, the life still has value, and a trans person still has value, even if they don't fit the social norms that you want them to fit. Again, there is nothing inherent about these things that makes it to where if they are born a woman or a female, if they are born a female, these terms are confusing. It's not easy. I would say most people use woman to mean female, and that's fine. Most of the trans people I know still have trouble remembering which terms to use when, but these are social constructs, and we can construct them to fit the society that we want to live in. So, females don't have to wear makeup. They don't have to wear dresses. They can enjoy all of the things that most males would enjoy, and they would still be female. But, there's nothing that forces them to do these things except for society, except for societal expectations. There are brainwaves that makes them more likely to like feminine things. That's true. And actually, transgender women, meaning someone who is a male but identifies with feminine characteristics, would have brainwaves similar to a biological female. And there are biological parts that fit into the social construct. Social constructs align with things that are in reality. So, someone where we consider things feminine, we would think of breasts a lot of times in the way that they fit into a dress. Now, are breasts biological? Yes, of course, but they present in a feminine way to us because of the way that women and females interact within society. So, someone who's transgender, though they aren't trying to chop off their penis or anything like that, they may get breast implants because they want to present in a more feminine manner. Social constructs align with things that are in reality, biological things. So, this is the reason that I accept transgender ideologies or transgenderism or whatever it is that you want to call it. Appreciate you joining me, and I'll see you later. Later, fools.